Hollywood has given us more than just glitz and glamour. It's given us legends who could stare danger in the eye and walk away with a smirk.
This is the second time that you've laid hands on me. When you're slapped, you'll take it and like it.
These weren't just actors. They were real-life tough guys who lived their roles. From action heroes to Western icons, these stars didn't just play tough. They were tough. Join us as we take a closer look at the 25 toughest actors who redefined what it means to be fearless. 1. John Garfield. Rising to fame in the 1930s and 1940s, John Garfield made his mark in films like The Postman Always Rings Twice and Body and Soul. His characters often reflected his own upbringing, working class, scrappy, and unafraid to take risks. Growing up in the tough streets of New York City, Garfield led gangs and fought in boxing gyms. These experiences shaped his intense on-screen presence, making him a natural for roles that required both vulnerability and defiance. But Garfield's real-life toughness extended beyond the streets. In the 1950s, during the height of the Red Scare, he was called to testify before the House Un-American Activities Committee. Refusing to name names, Garfield stood firm against accusations of communist ties, a decision that effectively ended his Hollywood career. The stress of the blacklist took a toll, and Garfield died of a heart attack in 1952 at just 39 years old. His fearless performances and refusal to compromise his beliefs made him a trailblazer, paving the way for future method actors like Marlon Brando and James Dean. 2. James Caan. James Caan rose to prominence in the 1970s, becoming a household name after playing the hot-tempered Sonny Corleone in The Godfather. His performance earned him Oscar and Golden Globe nominations, solidifying his place among the greats. While he often portrayed characters with grit in real life, Caan had a background that made his on-screen toughness feel authentic. Raised in Queens, New York as the son of a butcher, he grew up scrappy and resourceful, traits that stuck with him through life. Known as Killer Caan during his youth, he was not one to back down from a fight. Whether it was sanctioned boxing matches or street brawls, Caan had a reputation for being as tough off-screen as on. He later became a master of Gosoku Ryu karate, earning a 6th Dan black belt. Caan's passion for martial arts wasn't just for show. He trained under Takayuki Kubota and honed his skills for years. This discipline and strength translated into roles that played against the hyper-macho image of Sonny Corleone, showcasing his range as an actor. James Caan passed away in 2022 at the age of 82, leaving behind a legacy of roles that captured the toughness of his real-life persona. 3. Jackie Chan. Starting his career in the 1970s, Jackie Chan's unique blend of martial arts, acrobatics, and comedy set him apart. Films like Drunken Master, Police Story, and Rush Hour showcased his ability to perform jaw-dropping stunts, all choreographed by Chan himself. But what made him a true standout was his refusal to use stunt doubles. Every jump, punch, and fall was real, and it often left him injured, but never beaten. Chan's dedication to martial arts began in his early years. He trained in Hapkido under Grandmaster Jin Paul Kim, earning a black belt. Over time, he mastered various disciplines, including Kung Fu, Karate, Judo, Taekwondo, and even Jeet Kune Do. For Chan, martial arts wasn't just about fighting. "When you are learning about a martial art, it is about respect," he said. "If you knock somebody down, stop, bring them up." His philosophy emphasized discipline and compassion, even in the most intense fight scenes. Despite his success, Chan remained grounded. His incredible toughness came from years of rigorous training and his commitment to perfection. From climbing skyscrapers to sliding down burning poles, Jackie Chan's stunts are the stuff of legend. And through it all, he reminded audiences that true toughness comes from perseverance and heart. 4. Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris became a household name for his rugged roles in Walker, Texas Ranger and action-packed movies like Missing in Action. But before Hollywood, Norris built a reputation as a real-life tough guy. He wasn't just acting, he lived it. A black belt in Tang Soo Do, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Judo, Norris competed in and won karate championships across all 50 states. In fact, he even claimed the Karate Triple Crown for the most tournament wins in a single year. Chuck's big Hollywood break came in 1972 when Bruce Lee cast him in Way of the Dragon. Lee, recognizing Norris's authentic martial arts skills, wanted to go toe-to-toe with a real fighter on screen. The result was an unforgettable fight scene that cemented both their places in action movie history. Beyond acting, Norris created his own fighting style called Chun Kuk Do, or the Universal Way, a reflection of his commitment to martial arts innovation. But Norris's toughness wasn't limited to the dojo or the big screen. He served as an air policeman in the U.S. Air Force, showing his discipline and grit from a young age. 5. James Coburn. James Coburn brought a different kind of toughness to Hollywood. Tall and lean with a razor-sharp grin, he was the type of guy who could charm you one moment and intimidate you the next. He starred in countless westerns, often switching between playing heroes and villains. One of his most iconic roles was in The Magnificent Seven, where he cemented his reputation as a Hollywood tough guy. Coburn didn't just play cowboys, though. He also showed his suave and sophisticated side as Derek Flint, a parody of the super spy archetype in Our Man Flint. Whether he was outwitting bad guys or throwing a punch, Coburn had an undeniable air of danger about him. It wasn't just about his physical presence, it was the way he carried himself, confident, unpredictable, and undeniably tough. While Coburn was skilled in martial arts, he was more about the attitude than the technical moves. His sharp eyes always hinted at the kind of grit that made him stand out in Hollywood. Sadly, Coburn passed away in 2002, but his legacy as one of the toughest actors lives on through his iconic roles. 6. Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart, with his gravelly voice and piercing gaze, became one of Hollywood's most iconic tough guys. Known for playing characters who were equal parts cunning and noble, Bogart brought depth to roles like Sam Spade and Rick Blaine, balancing personal pain with a gritty determination to do what's right. But did you know that off-screen, Bogart's reputation was just as tough? He had a well-documented drinking problem and was known to cause trouble at gambling joints. Quick to anger and always ready for a fight, Bogart's real-life antics often mirrored the dangerous characters he portrayed. But then, despite his tough exterior, he had moments of vulnerability, which made his performances even more compelling. In To Have and Have Not, 1944, he shared electrifying chemistry with his future wife, Lauren Bacall, creating one of Hollywood's most famous love stories. Bogart's ability to show humanity amid his ruggedness set him apart, earning him a timeless place in cinema history. He passed away in 1957 from esophageal cancer, a fittingly tough end for a man who lived and acted with such intensity. 7. Sir Christopher Lee. Sir Christopher Lee, with his towering frame and deep, menacing voice, became one of Hollywood's most iconic villains. From 1946 onward, he captivated audiences in over 240 films, earning a Guinness World Record for his extensive career. He brought unforgettable villains to life, such as Count Dracula in the Hammer horror movies, the sinister Count Dooku in Star Wars, and the wizard Saruman in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But what many don't know is that Lee's off-screen life was far more adventurous and dangerous than any of his fictional roles. During World War II, Lee served as a pilot officer in the RAF, flying missions across North Africa and Italy. He even took a break from combat to climb Mount Vesuvius days before it erupted, revealing a daring spirit that matched his larger-than-life roles. Lee's war service extended beyond the skies. He also worked in intelligence, participating in secret missions behind enemy lines. While filming The Lord of the Rings, director Peter Jackson gave Lee instructions on how to sound during a stabbing scene. Lee's response was, "Have you any idea what kind of noise happens when somebody's stabbed in the back? Because I do." Christopher Lee passed away in 2015 at the age of 93, leaving behind a legacy of both on-screen terror and real-world bravery. 8. Charles Bronson. Charles Bronson was the epitome of a tough guy, both on and off the screen. Born into a working-class family, Bronson spent his early years toiling in Pennsylvania coal mines, following in his father's footsteps. This blue-collar background shaped the hardened persona he brought to roles in classics like The Magnificent Seven and The Dirty Dozen. Later, in the Death Wish series, Bronson's gritty portrayal of a vigilante cemented his reputation as one of Hollywood's ultimate tough guys. But Bronson's real toughness came from his service during World War II. Enlisting in the U.S. Army Air Forces, he served as a gunner on B-29 bombers. Flying 25 missions in the Pacific Theater, he survived harrowing combat and earned a Purple Heart for wounds sustained in battle. His military career made him a perfect fit for the rugged roles he played. With his intimidating presence and unyielding demeanor, Bronson became the face of cinematic justice. As one critic once put it, you definitely want Bronson in your corner when it's time to deal with gangsters and lowlifes. Sadly, Charles Bronson died in 2003 at the age of 81, but his legacy as Hollywood's ultimate tough guy is firmly intact. 9. Jimmy Stewart. Jimmy Stewart wasn't just a celebrated actor, he was a decorated war hero. Known for his roles in classics like It's a Wonderful Life and The Philadelphia Story, Stewart was already a Hollywood star by 1941. But after the attack on Pearl Harbor, he didn't use his fame to avoid military service. Instead, he enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Forces, driven by a sense of duty that would define him both on and off the screen. Stewart flew 20 combat missions over Nazi-occupied Europe as a squadron leader, leading bombing raids that were as dangerous as they were important. His dedication earned him numerous awards, and he rose to the rank of Brigadier General in the U.S. Air Force Reserve, making him the highest-ranking actor in U.S. military history. Stewart wasn't interested in being treated differently because of his fame. He once appealed directly to his commander to ensure he was sent into combat, refusing any special treatment. Stewart continued to serve during the Vietnam War and retired from the Air Force in 1968. He passed away in 1997 at the age of 89 as a result of pulmonary embolism. 10. Sean Connery. Sean Connery is, for many, the ultimate James Bond, setting the standard for suavity and danger in the 7 Bond films he starred in from the early 1960s to the early 1980s. Off-screen, he was no less formidable. As a child in Scotland, Connery was known for his scrappy fights and quick temper. Later, as a teen, he served in the British Navy, adding discipline to his rugged upbringing. But Connery's tough guy reputation wasn't just about fists and charm, it extended to real-life drama. In 1957, while filming Another Time, Another Place, he became tangled with Lana Turner's then-boyfriend, Johnny Stompanato, who was a mob enforcer. Enraged by rumors of Connery and Turner's closeness, Stompanato stormed the set with a gun. Connery didn't flinch. Using a quick self-defense move, he disarmed Stompanato and knocked him out. The mobster was deported, but trouble followed Connery. After Stompanato's death months later, his boss, Mickey Cohen, warned Connery to leave Los Angeles, fearing he might be linked to the mobster's demise. Connery wisely laid low for a while but eventually returned to Hollywood, continuing his legendary career until his death at 90 in 2020. 11. James Cagney. From the early 1930s to the 1950s, Cagney's career was marked by iconic portrayals of gangsters and tough guys in films like The Public Enemy and Angels with Dirty Faces. What made Cagney stand out was his ability to mix toughness with charm, captivating audiences with his razor-sharp energy and distinctive style. But Cagney's toughness wasn't just an act. Growing up dirt poor in New York City's Lower East Side, he learned to fight to protect himself and his younger brother from bullies. He even considered becoming a professional boxer, but his natural charisma led him to acting, first on the vaudeville stage and later in Hollywood. Despite his fame, Cagney remained fiercely independent, refusing to play by studio rules. He was known as a ruthless negotiator, always fighting for fair treatment in an industry notorious for exploiting talent. Cagney once said, "Never settle back on your heels, never relax. If you relax, the audience relaxes." True to his word, Cagney never let his performances or his principles slip. He passed away peacefully in 1986 at the age of 86. 12. Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen was a symbol of 1960s counterculture. Known as the King of Cool, McQueen's effortless charisma lit up films like Bullet, The Great Escape, and The Magnificent Seven. By the late 1960s, he was one of Hollywood's highest-paid stars, but his journey to the top wasn't easy. Abandoned by both parents, McQueen grew up on the streets, often resorting to street fights to survive. By the time he was 16, he was working odd jobs, including in a Dominican brothel, just to make ends meet. But then, joining the Marine Corps in his teens became a turning point. McQueen didn't just serve, he excelled. During an Arctic training exercise, he saved the lives of 5 fellow Marines, solidifying his reputation as a real-life hero. Later, McQueen became a motorsport enthusiast, performing many of his own stunts in films, further amplifying his tough guy image. Beyond his stunts and racing skills, McQueen trained in Tang Soo Do, earning a 9th-degree black belt, making him a genuine force to be reckoned with. His toughness was more than physical. McQueen's son, Chad, shared insights into his father's short temper and relentless drive, rooted in his rough childhood. McQueen passed away in 1980 from mesothelioma at the age of 50, but his blend of ruggedness and charm left an indelible mark on Hollywood. 13. Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke's Hollywood career took off in the 1980s, with standout performances in films like 9½ Weeks and Angel Heart. But did you know that long before he graced the silver screen, Rourke was a real fighter? After graduating from high school in 1971, he pursued boxing and had an impressive amateur record of 27 wins and only 3 losses by the time he stopped in 1973. His years in the ring were not just about athletic discipline. They shaped the rugged persona he carried into his acting roles. By the early 1990s, Rourke had grown frustrated with Hollywood and returned to boxing, this time as a professional. His career in the ring was brief but undefeated, with 8 fights before retiring in 1994 due to injuries. Despite the physical toll, Rourke's toughness wasn't just physical, it was also emotional. Known for his clashes with the industry and a reputation for being difficult to work with, Rourke's career seemed erratic at times. But in 2008, he made a stunning comeback with The Wrestler, a role that mirrored his own struggles and earned him a Golden Globe. Rourke has since been proving us that even in the face of personal and professional battles, he could still land a knockout punch. 14. Danny Trejo. Danny Trejo's tough guy image on screen is no act. His early life was marked by hardship and crime, growing up as a drug addict and spending over a decade in and out of prison. It was during his time at San Quentin Prison in the 1960s that Trejo discovered his talent for boxing. It was during his time there that he eventually became a champion in both the lightweight and welterweight divisions. While his surroundings were grim, boxing gave him a sense of purpose, a skill set that would later change his life. After completing a rehabilitation program and leaving prison, Trejo found an unexpected opportunity in Hollywood. While working as a boxing trainer for the movie Runaway Train, director Andrei Konchalovsky noticed his commanding presence and offered him a role. From there, Trejo's career took off. Films like Machete and Heat showcased his intensity, but Trejo's personal transformation is just as impressive. Reflecting on his journey, he said, "I realized I had to show people I had really changed. I could still be in prison. Hell, for all I did, I could be headed to the gas chamber. This is all icing." Today, at 80 years old, Danny Trejo proves that even the darkest past can lead to a bright future. 15. John Wayne. John Wayne was a cultural icon whose career spanned from the silent film era of the 1920s to the transformative American New Wave of the 1970s. Known for his rugged masculinity and roles in westerns and war films, Wayne defined the American tough guy archetype for decades. However, John Wayne's tough guy image wasn't without controversy. Behind the camera, his staunch political beliefs often stirred debate. A vocal supporter of the Vietnam War, Wayne directed and starred in The Green Berets to rally support for the effort, a move that polarized audiences. His affiliation with the House of Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, and role in enforcing Hollywood's blacklist further complicated his legacy. Wayne's anti-communist stance was so fierce that it reportedly drew the attention of Joseph Stalin, who allegedly suggested he should be assassinated. While Wayne's on-screen persona was one of unwavering heroism, his off-screen actions reveal a more complex and divisive tough guy figure. Wayne passed away in 1979 from stomach cancer, leaving behind a legacy as both a legend and a lightning rod for controversy. 16. Clark Gable. Clark Gable, known famously as the King of Hollywood, was the epitome of charisma and charm during his reign in the 1930s and 1940s. His rugged good looks and confident demeanor made him a favorite among audiences, but his life off-screen revealed a more complex story. When World War II began, Gable shocked MGM and his fans by enlisting in the U.S. Army Air Forces after the tragic death of his wife, Carol Lombard, in 1942. Deeply grieving, Gable flew 5 combat missions in Europe, despite being one of the most recognizable faces in the world. Adolf Hitler, reportedly a fan of Gable's films, placed a bounty on his capture, dead or alive, making his missions even more perilous. Speaking of which, Gable later admitted he didn't expect to survive, once telling a friend, "If Hitler catches me, he'll put me in a cage like a gorilla." By the early 1960s, Gable had starred in 82 films and remained a box office powerhouse. Despite his fame, he stayed humble, keeping reminders of his working-class roots in his dressing rooms. Tragically, Gable suffered a heart attack in November 1960 and passed away shortly after at the age of 59. 17. James Doohan. James Doohan, beloved for his role as Scotty in Star Trek, had a real-life tough guy story that rivaled any Hollywood script. Before his acting career took off, Doohan served in the Canadian Armed Forces during World War II. He was part of the 14th Field Artillery Regiment of the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division. His service included storming the beaches of Normandy on D-Day in 1944, one of the deadliest battles of the war. Speaking of which, Doohan's bravery was undeniable. While leading his platoon across the heavily mined beaches, he killed 2 Nazi snipers. However, fate took a brutal turn when he came under friendly fire, being hit 8 times. 4 bullets struck his knee, 1 tore through his chest, deflected only by a cigarette case in his pocket, and another shot off the middle finger of his right hand. Despite these injuries, Doohan survived and carried the scars, both physical and emotional, for the rest of his life. Decades later, he would still mention that cigarette case with a mix of humor and gratitude. Doohan passed away in 2005 at the age of 85. 18. Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal was one of the defining action stars of the 1980s and 1990s, headlining films like Under Siege, Above the Law, and Hard to Kill. His screen presence was built on his mastery of martial arts, specifically Aikido, where he holds a 7th degree black belt. Aikido is primarily a defensive style, but Seagal turned it into a powerful asset, blending fluid movements with sharp takedowns. Seagal also claims to hold a 7th degree black belt in karate, granted by Kancho Hatsuo Royama, a student of legendary karate master Mas Oyama. While his martial arts credentials have been questioned over the years, Seagal's career reflects a fascination with strength and discipline. Beyond acting, he worked as a border patrol officer, even documenting this in a television series. Seagal's larger-than-life personality is matched by his complex reputation, with many stories about his martial arts and personal life, creating as much intrigue as his movies. As he once said, "It is my hope and prayer that the wisdom of the real masters doesn't disintegrate as time goes on." 19. Sean Bean. Sean Bean, known for his roles as Boromir in The Lord of the Rings and Ned Stark in Game of Thrones, has a tough guy reputation that extends well beyond the screen. In 2012, while at a bar in London, Bean confronted a man who insulted his date. The altercation escalated when the man returned and tried to stab Bean with a shard of glass. So what was Bean's response? He blocked the attack with his arm, shrugged off the injury, and calmly walked back into the bar. Instead of seeking medical help, Bean asked for a first aid kit, patched himself up, and went back to enjoying his drink. This real-life moment mirrors the kind of grit and resolve Bean often portrays on screen. Despite his roles often ending in dramatic deaths, Bean has proven time and again that his off-screen toughness is just as compelling. As one bar staff member said at the time, he seemed okay and wanted to have another drink. For Bean, even being stabbed wasn't enough to ruin the night, revealing a brand of toughness that goes beyond acting. 20. Michael Jai White. Michael Jai White is not just an actor, he's a martial arts legend with black belts in 7 disciplines. including Shotokan, Taekwondo, Tang Soo Do, and Kyokushin. Born in Brooklyn, White brought his real-life combat skills to the screen in roles like Al Simmons in Spawn and Jax Briggs in Mortal Kombat. Legacy. His talent in martial arts is backed by an impressive competitive history with more than 25 titles to his name, including the prestigious North American and U.S. Open Championships. On screen, White combines power and precision, making him one of the most convincing action stars in Hollywood. Off-screen, his dedication to martial arts has made him a role model for discipline and perseverance. Despite his focus on action-packed roles, White also portrays thoughtful characters, blending depth with physicality. In 2023 alone, he starred in 5 action films, proving that his work ethic and passion for martial arts remain as sharp as ever. 21. Bruce Lee. When you think of Hollywood's toughest martial arts icons, Bruce Lee is the first name that comes to mind. At one point, no martial artist was bigger than Lee in the entertainment world. But Bruce Lee wasn't just a movie star, he was a true master of his craft. Known for films like Fist of Fury, Enter the Dragon, and Game of Death, his impact on martial arts and cinema was massive. Tragically, his journey was cut short when he passed away at just 32 years old. But did you know that Bruce didn't just stop at mastering martial arts? He created an entirely new philosophy called Jeet Kune Do. This hybrid style, described in The Way of the Warrior, was a game changer. It brought together techniques from Tai Chi, Wing Chun, boxing, karate, judo, eskrima, and taekwondo, combining them into a fluid fighting style. Many even say Jeet Kune Do laid the groundwork for modern mixed martial arts. Beyond his personal achievements, Bruce was a teacher to some big names in the industry. Legends like Chuck Norris, Joe Louis, James Coburn, and even his son Brandon Lee all trained under his guidance and carried his legacy forward. 22. Audie Murphy. Audie Murphy's story is straight out of a war epic. Before becoming a Hollywood star in the 1950s, Murphy was one of the most decorated American soldiers of World War II. Initially rejected for enlistment in 1941, he joined the U.S. Army in 1942 at the age of 17. His valor in battle earned him nearly every U.S. military award for courage, including the Medal of Honor at just 19 years old. Murphy's most legendary act involved climbing into a burning tank and single-handedly holding off German troops with machine gun fire to allow his company to retreat. After the war, Murphy transitioned to acting, starring in over 40 films, including To Hell and Back, which was based on his own memoir. Despite his success, Murphy's war experiences left lasting scars, and he battled PTSD throughout his life. His contributions to both the military and cinema remain unparalleled. Tragically, Murphy died in a plane crash in 1971 at the age of 45, but his legacy as both a tough soldier and an actor continues to inspire generations. 23. Ed O'Neill. Now, Ed O'Neill might not be the first name that comes to mind when you think of Hollywood tough guys, but his real-life accomplishments tell a different story. Best known for playing Al Bundy in Married with Children and Jay Pritchett in Modern Family, O'Neill built a career on comedy and relatable, down-to-earth characters. However, outside of acting, he has spent over 2 decades mastering Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under the legendary Rorion Gracie. In 2007, after 22 years of rigorous training, O'Neill earned his black belt, a rare achievement in martial arts that requires extraordinary discipline and perseverance. O'Neill himself has said that earning his black belt was the greatest accomplishment of his life, second only to the birth of his children. Despite this impressive feat, O'Neill's acting career has largely avoided tough guy roles. His portrayals of slacker dads and goofy husbands make it almost unbelievable that he's a martial arts expert. But in his personal life, O'Neill's quiet dedication to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu proves that toughness doesn't always need to be loud or flashy. It's about commitment and character. 24. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger's path to stardom was as monumental as the man himself. In the 1980s and 1990s, he ruled Hollywood with blockbuster hits like The Terminator, Predator, and Commando. But before he was a household name, Arnold was breaking records in the world of bodybuilding. At just 20, he won the prestigious Mr. Universe title, followed by an incredible 7 Mr. Olympia titles, an achievement that cemented him as a legend in the sport. Arnold's physical power and unmatched discipline made him a natural fit for the action-packed roles he took on. Whether playing a cyborg assassin or a warrior battling supernatural foes, Schwarzenegger brought an intensity that few could rival. Speaking of which, his dedication to fitness even earned him the respect of wrestling and strength legends like Bruno Sammartino. While Arnold's toughness didn't come from martial arts or combat, his dominance in bodybuilding and his rise to fame as an action star proved he had the grit to be a Hollywood icon. Even in his 70s, Arnold continues to inspire fans worldwide with his larger-than-life persona and unyielding determination. 25. Dolph Lundgren. Dolph Lundgren's path to becoming an action star was as unconventional as it gets. Before his breakout role as Ivan Drago in Rocky IV, 1985, Lundgren was a chemical engineer with a Fulbright scholarship to MIT. But his passion for martial arts pulled him in a different direction. Lundgren began training in Kyokushin karate at the age of 10 and became a European karate champion in 1980 and 1981. By 19, he was representing Sweden in full-contact karate world championships in Japan. His discipline in martial arts shaped his on-screen persona as a physically imposing yet disciplined fighter. After leaving academia, Lundgren worked as a bouncer in New York City, where his tough demeanor and striking presence caught the attention of actress Grace Jones. She introduced him to the world of acting, and soon he landed a minor role in the James Bond film A View to a Kill. His breakthrough as Drago turned him into a household name, leading to roles in films like Universal Soldier and The Expendables. Beyond acting, Lundgren's resilience has been tested in his personal life. In 2020, he revealed a battle with cancer, showing the same fighting spirit off-screen as he does on it. At 67, Lundgren continues to inspire as both a fighter and an action icon. And that's a wrap on today's episode. Which of these Hollywood tough guys impressed you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from Hollywood's fascinating history. See you next time.